So I'm Michelle Little, the owner of the Perfect Granola, and we're gonna go through how to make apple crumble using our maple pecan date granola. So the first thing you wanna do is you wanna clean and peel 8 large apples. And the reason why I really love this is because it's a super healthy, family fun recipe. My kids and my husband love it. It's almost like an old-fashioned apple pie recipe, but without the butter and the fat content of your old-fashioned pie crust. So this actually takes out the pie crust of a regular apple pie, and we're able to substitute that in for our heart-healthy granola. Today we're using a Jonah Gold apple. It's nice and crisp and sweet. It holds up to the cooking because we're actually gonna bake this recipe twice. We're gonna bake it first to get the apples cooked down a little bit. Then we're gonna add our topping onto it and cook it again. So make sure that all the maple flavor from our delicious granola gets all cooked down into the apples. So after we peel our 8 large apples, we're just gonna dice them in even dices, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick. That way when it cooks down, it'll get nice and sweet and juicy. What we also do with these apples is we sweeten them with a little bit of organic cane sugar. We actually use evaporated cane juice in our house. It really continues to keep up the nutritional value of your sugar, because believe it or not, sugar actually has a little bit of nutritional value. But sometimes if you're getting the standard white refined sugar, all of that is cooked out through the refining process. So by using organic evaporated cane juice, you're actually continuing to keep all of the nutritious components of the cane itself into your recipes. So after we've gotten these all diced up, we're actually gonna add about 1/4 cup of your organic evaporated cane juice. We'll add all that in there. We're gonna add the rest of the apples that we pre-sliced earlier into our large bowl. What we're also gonna do to really bring out some of the flavors of our granola is we're gonna use some organic cinnamon as well. My favorite cinnamon to use is actually a Saigon cinnamon. It's really rich in flavor, adds a little bit of heat value than your standard ground cinnamon that you'd find in the stores. If your local store doesn't have the Saigon cinnamon, totally fine to use whatever kind of cinnamon is in your local store. So we'll get that all added up. I'm also gonna add in just about 1/4 cup of plain baking flour. And that's gonna help when the apples break down, they release a lot of their natural juices. So the flour will actually help to get all of those apples and all the juice kind of contained into the pan dish as you're baking it. That way it won't get too liquidy on you. So we're gonna take all of these beautiful apples that we just sliced up and we're gonna put them into our baking dish. So we get them all in here. You don't have to worry about greasing the baking dish at all, because the apples, like I said, they're gonna break down, they're gonna add a little bit of the natural juices, and that's gonna take care of any kind of sticking or anything to the bottom of the pan. So we just get them all in there. We're gonna sprinkle just a little bit more cinnamon on top. It's about 1/8 of a teaspoon to 1/4 of a teaspoon. You don't need too much there. And then what I like to do in the first baking process is actually cover the apples. That makes sure that all the apples, you can steam and keep all the juices retained in there, and then that flour will kind of solidify some of those juices and get it really nice and bubbly in there. If you're cooking for a gluten-free diet, you can also sub out the flour for fresh ground oats. So if you've got some quick cooking oats in your cabinet, just throw them in a food processor and sub that in instead of the flour. So once we've got it all into our baking dish, we're just gonna put it right into the oven, preheated at 425 for about 30 minutes to start. So now that this has cooked off for about 30 to 35 minutes in our 425-degree oven, we just mix up the apples to make sure that all of that flour and sugar and cinnamon is evenly distributed throughout these apples. And as you'll see, they're about par cooked. So they're cooked about halfway through. So after we put our topping on, it'll finish the baking process in the oven. After we take it out of the oven, we mix up the apples, we sprinkle on some of our maple pecan date granola, about a cup to a cup and a half, sprinkled right on top with a nice even coating on the top, because this is actually going to serve as your crumble on top. Same idea of an apple crumble, but we use granola. That way we don't have to worry about adding any kind of additional flavorings. We add a little bit of maple syrup on top just to really make sure that it has a nice maple flavor. It'll add a little hint of sweetness as well. And then we take our oven from 425 down to 350 degrees and pop this back in for about another 15 to 20 minutes. And after that second bake of about 15 to 20 minutes, you've got this beautiful apple crumble made with our very own maple pecan date granola.